Yes guys, welcome back to another video. Welcome to the George Benson football channel. It's Wednesday the 3rd of January, which means we have Chelsea transfer news. The January series that we did last summer, trying to get you guys first thing in the morning when you wake up, if you're born in Europe and America, up to date with all of the latest regarding Chelsea incomings, Chelsea outgoings, which is going to be the predominant focus of today's video. We're going to talk Ian Maatsen, Alex Matos, Andrey Santos, Conor Gallagher, and a player who is currently out on loan, Cassaday, who is lighting things up right now for Leicester. I was thinking of a better term. Lighting up was the only thing that came to my mind. But we first of all begin with Ian Maatsen, a player who, bring it back to pre-season, I was absolutely singing the praises of Ian Maatsen, and unfortunately, I'm not really singing his praises anymore, and it's not his fault. I don't think Ian Maatsen particularly has done anything wrong when he's been given an opportunity by Pochettino, but unfortunately for him, mainly, Mauricio Pochettino just hasn't really given Ian Maatsen any chances whatsoever. He's preferred to play Levi Colwill at left back, which I do think is a telling sign of the ability that Colwill has, the faith, the trust that Pochettino has, but also maybe it's one of those where Chelsea were desperate to keep hold of Levi. Pochettino has got to keep him there, otherwise he's just going to leave. So maybe that's why Ian Maatsen has kind of been frozen out. As well as that, Maatsen in pre-season showed so much ability going forward in the final third. He was one of those players who was scoring goals in pre-season, linking up with the likes of Jackson, Mudryk and Kunku. So for me, it's been a bit confusing. But then again, it's the same as a lot of players for Chelsea during pre-seasons. Ross Barkley used to turn into prime Zidane. And then when it came to playing in the Premier League, the Carabao Cup, the FA Cup, Champions League, Europa, he was bang average. And I think it could be one of those cases where Pochettino was probably also impressed by what he saw in pre-season, but it's never materialised when it comes to tactical implementation, the ability to onboard instructions about the way that he wants him to play. So for that reason, I think it is a foregone conclusion at this point that Ian Maatsen will be leaving Chelsea. There's also a story that Zack Sturge, who's a promising young left-back that Chelsea bought from Brighton Academy, he's been on loan at Peterborough, hasn't been playing, and he's been recalled by Chelsea. So this could be because there are legs in this Ian Maatsen move. At the moment, Chelsea are looking for around 30 million euros to sell Ian Maatsen, which is a lot of money, particularly for a player who's not really been playing. For Borussia Dortmund, they're very, very savvy when it comes to their business. They look at players, young players, and they always have a plan as to how they could be nurtured within the current squad and system that they've got. 30 million in January. If Chelsea can get 30 million for a player that's clearly not fancied by the manager, isn't getting many minutes, you'd like to think that the money that Chelsea could make, if this indeed goes through, will be spent in other areas across the field that we need to strengthen in. And if you didn't see yesterday's Chelsea news video, I was talking about priorities and how Chelsea should prioritise an actual goal scorer that we can rely on going forward for the rest of the season. At the moment, Dortmund have spoken to Ian Maatsen, but the gap between what they want to pay, what Chelsea are expecting, is still a little bit too big. We're only 3 days into the window. We got the whole of January. And I guess I also hope for Ian Maatsen's sake. I think he's a good footballer who deserves to be playing under a manager that rates him, that wants to give him opportunities instead of putting other players that don't even play in that position predominantly, roles over him, if that makes sense. So Ian Maatsen to Dortmund. Let me know your thoughts on that in the comments down below. The next story is about Alex Matos, a player that I've not really spoken about at all over the course of the history of GBFC. This is from Fabrizio Romano. Chelsea talent Alex Matos on the verge of joining Huddersfield Town on loan deal. As Matt Law called, no option to buy included. As we move into the next story, which is about Andrey Santos, the Brazilian midfielder who also impressed during pre-season, I've got a funny feeling that Matos is being loaned out, not just because I think he's played about 2 minutes, 3 minutes of football this season. He's been on the bench a lot for Chelsea because of all the injuries we've had. And I think this is good experience for him. But at the same time, when you're young, you're not just going to get experience by sitting on the bench at Chelsea. You've got to be playing some football. Huddersfield Town are currently struggling in the Championship. They're down near, if not in the relegation zone. So, could be one of those where he can actually move into a team where he's got an important role, can make a massive difference to their season, as opposed to just sitting on the bench and waiting for like 1 minute, 30 seconds at the end of a game when Chelsea are winning, which isn't all that often these days. So Alex Matos on the verge of joining Huddersfield Town on loan. And the other news is that Andrey Santos will be returning to Chelsea. And when you think about the signing of central midfielders, or midfielders just in general in this window, there's only really talk of midfielders leaving the club. There isn't much talk about Chelsea signing central midfielders. So, with Matos going on loan to Huddersfield, the Santos loan move to Nottingham Forest is an absolute joke, by the way. It's farcical how Forest can just go and take a young player, say, yeah, we're going to use him a lot this season. Steve Cooper's going to play him. Yeah, we've got a plan for Andre. No, you don't. Nottingham Forest literally went and bought an entire aeroplane full of central midfielders at the beginning of this season. Santos has not had a look in. But again, bringing it back to pre-season, Andrey Santos was really good. I was so impressed with what I saw. Before that loan move went out, I was thinking, like, this kid, he's got all the ability. We've heard all the stories about his talent in Brazil, how good he is for the national team in the younger years and all that stuff. And then he goes out on loan, doesn't play. So with Matos, a player who has been happy to be on the Chelsea bench, not get many minutes, but I'd also say not as developed as Andrey Santos. I think a Premier League loan was the right one for Santos, but a team that's actually going to play him. So now, I'm going to make a prediction here this January. Andrey Santos comes back from the Forest loan, which is always going to happen anyway because he's just not playing. It's a waste for the player and the club. And I think he stays at Chelsea. There's been rumours that Crystal Palace are interested in trying to loan him. Roy Hodgson would bloody love that, wouldn't he? Palace are struggling. But I do think Santos stays and becomes that player who could be used off the bench sparingly. But also, if you've got a future at Chelsea, if you're not playing at Forest, it's better you stay at Chelsea. Much rather Andrey Santos was on the bench for us than not even warming the bench at times for Nottingham Forest, which is absolutely outrageous. We move into the main story of the day. We've spoken about this one a lot, and this is great news if you, like me, are a fan of Conor Gallagher. Chelsea would also be open to more changes in other positions, but that will depend on outgoings to free up space in the squad, with the likes of Ian Maatsen, Trevor Chalobah, and surprisingly Conor Gallagher among those they will listen to offers for. This is a tweet from Simon Phillips through Sky Sports News. We're going to be potentially selling Matson, potentially selling Chalobah to raise funds. However, Conor Gallagher, wanted by Spurs. Spurs are looking at it thinking, are Chelsea for real? Are they actually going to accept an offer? The good news is, because Conor Gallagher is still contracted to Chelsea Football Club, Tottenham could offer 100 million. Chelsea could be like, yes sir, 3 bags full. Conor Gallagher can turn around and be like, you know what? I don't really care about this one because I want to stay at Chelsea and I don't want to sign for Tottenham, which when you're a player like Gallagher, who clearly is a fan of the club, has been here his whole career, you don't want to move to Tottenham because you don't like Tottenham. You're just like me. You sit here and you hear the word Tottenham Hotspur and you almost want to get a little spit cup just so that you can vomit in it. I don't like it. Absolutely despise it. The latest on Conor Gallagher. Understand the 23-year-old wants to stay at Chelsea. Maurizio Pochettino wants that too. Waiting on a decision from the club's board. Pre-contract talks have taken place, but no concrete offer from the club just yet. Let me just clarify a few things that we've kind of heard on the grapevine, but we don't know if they're really true. The rumours are that Chelsea had offered Conor Gallagher an 8-year contract, which Conor is obviously looking at an 8-year contract and thinking, that's a massive long-term commitment, and if I sign this, is there manoeuvrability for pay rises, for additional clauses or whatever, to be involved if there are improvements in his game, which at the moment, as a 23-year-old, his career's moving in the right direction. He's becoming a prominent member of the Chelsea squad, developing in his qualities on the football pitch. So for Conor, an 8-year contract is a little bit crazy. Keeps him there till he's 31 years old, which the way that he plays football is quite an old age. So, at this point in time, Chelsea Football Club are also looking at Gallagher thinking, well, if you're not going to sign that deal, that's what we want to offer you, then you can go for a free agent next year, which doesn't really help Chelsea, which is why, as much as I think it is lunacy to be able to even contemplate selling our best performing midfielder this season, I get why Chelsea might be doing it. But at the same time, I think there is a really simple way out of this one where everyone's a winner. Conor Gallagher gets offered a 5-year deal or a 4-year plus 1 deal, signs that deal because he wants to be here and is currently important for the manager that we have at the helm at the club right now. And then still, we're not in a case where we can lose him for free next summer. And there is also manoeuvrability there for Conor in terms of his individual solo career. This is the best outcome. And at the moment, I guess we're just waiting to see if the board are willing to offer Gallagher a contract that isn't some lunatic's 8-9 year deal and actually home in on something a little bit more feasible for both the player and the club for the risk of losing him for free next year. I'm delighted about this one. I don't need to talk about it anymore. You guys know I'm a big fan of Gallagher and I'm a big fan of players that are performing, particularly when Chelsea aren't performing. So we're going to leave that one there. The final story of the day is from Fabrizio Romano, who's obviously Italian, so he has invested interest in Cesare Cassaday. Italy coach Luciano Spalletti, a name that I feel has been around in football for as long as I've been alive, reveals both Cassaday at Leicester on loan from Chelsea and someone else from Burnley I don't care about. I'm happy to see their performances. I want to raise a question here for you. This isn't really massive Chelsea news that the Italy manager is looking at Cassaday, who's on loan at a championship side right now, to actually call him up for the senior Italy national team. Next season, there is going to be a lot of big questions. If Enzo doesn't up his performances, there's going to be some spots up for grabs, I think, in the Chelsea midfield. What I have seen of Cassaday, both in pre-season, for the Italy youth teams, for Leicester this season in the Championship, I think Cesare Cassaday, under the right manager, in the right system, is going to be an absolute world beater. I think even maybe more so than an Andrey Santos, who we've talked about in this video. So my question is, next year, if you've been watching Cassaday play, if you've not been watching him, then there's no point answering this question in the comments. But from what you've seen of Cassaday, I think there is a position for him in this Chelsea midfield. I really do. Whether that's further advanced, at the moment we're seeing Maresca grow Cassaday into a much better player, playing in the Championship, which is highly combative league. He's got to develop his body, and he's absolutely doing that right now, and he's becoming more prominent in that Leicester side. I'd be very excited to see Cassaday at the end of this season, into next pre-season, and I'm going to make a statement here. I think Cassaday's in the Chelsea squad next year for the Premier League. Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. This has been your daily news update for the Chelsea January transfer window, and I've also uploaded a short in case you, well, by this point you don't need to watch the short, but if ever you can't be bothered to sit through the 12, 13, 14 minutes of the news, check the shorts page, because I'm posting shorts of the same news for those of you that don't want to watch the long form stuff. But yeah, thanks for watching. Subscribe if you're new. Come on, you Blues.